Welcome to Deep Dive Film School. I am Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Palcher.
And if you like what you see/hear, please like and subscribe. You can find us in all the spaces and places that people what?
Find good media. That's right. Our most popular platforms are YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. So please join us. All right. This week we're going to get into that one scene from Todd Phillips' film from 2009, The Hangover.
Yes.
This is the next morning scene, or the wake-up scene.
Yep, the wake-up scene. And I think, I'm sure you did this too. I started a little bit earlier, right? Just because it's
I always like to give context and where it is in the movie. And so the scene right before this, they're on the roof giving their speeches the night before. We get this basically pan over to Vegas in a little time lapse. Well, it's a time lapse until the morning.
Yep.
From the roof, by the way, which is kind of
I
funny.
thought that was pretty cool.
I never noticed that before.
It's Bradley Cooper has this last thing he says. I might be messing up a little bit, but he's like, they do the shot, and he's like, to a night we won't remember, but one we will never forget, right?
And then Usher starts, right?
Yeah, and what it turns into is very much the
opposite of that.
Obviously had been done before this with Dude, Where's My Car? But I think that the premise of you
throw a Vegas bachelor party.
Now we need to try and retrace our steps, which we have zero recollection of.
For sure.
But
it's
rather
a great vehicle for a movie.
It is. And I think that you could say, the fact that the next morning, Greg, the bachelor, is missing, and his mattress, by the way, which I think is extra alarming, right? That's enough. That would be enough. It's all of the other accoutrement of what they wake up to that makes it into something incredible.
Absolutely. And, if you're a drinker, you've probably had a hangover like this at some point, maybe even in Vegas.
Maybe not a full blackout. Maybe it's like the last hour there's a blackout, but not
But something, the whole idea of the next morning is always frightening, right? The idea that you have to pay for what you did to your body the night before and all the fun you had, so, but it is a special concept of forgetting what happened, and you were so wasted that it becomes that perfect vehicle for a movie. Not only can just everyone relate to that, but the audience gets to go on the journey with you and find out these questions that we all have questions about,
And so, not everything is answered.
No.
But that's one of my favorite things is that this opening, one thing I love is that we fade to white after it's morning and we've gotten the time lapse.
The bubble bath with the sex toys in there.
And we have a bubble. So
the slow reveal of all the terrible things.
So it starts with a version of You Give Me Fever playing, right? You give me fever. Like the little song starts in. We have an overflowing bubble bath with blow-up dolls in it, a samurai sword stuck into an apple, a shattered TV, a chair that has been on fire and is still smoking. The floor has been turned into a bowling alley with tape, and that the pins at the end are champagne bottles which I thought was great. A chicken. A sex swing made out of bed sheets and the piano bench.
I missed that one.
Yeah, so it's the piano bench, and it's obviously been turned into a sex swing with
pure debauchery
with sheets. And then there's a woman who we never see again, sneaks out the front door sort of before any of our protagonists wake up, and I think that just really sets the stage. Well, but I guess we do see her again, but in that moment, it is just like, whoa, what the hell has happened here?
Yeah, some random girl. Yeah. Who knows what happens? And, I think just that slow reveal of all those terrible things is half of the fun.
There's a house of cards that never gets knocked over. And actually, even Zach Galifianakis runs into the table. The house of cards, this massive house of cards, and it still stays there. And I was like, that's pretty great.
But the other half of the fun is this great cast, right? I think Bradley Cooper was just coming up. Ed Helms had been pretty famous. And then this is Zach Galifianakis' coming out party.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Has Alan here, and he's obviously hilarious and just a great man-child. Right?
And it's not like all of the crew really likes each other. It's like Alan is totally like the oddball out.
Oh, big time.
Even the night before. Ed Helms is super wound tight. The fact that the dentist is missing a tooth is just on its face. Mwah.
His wake up sequence is great. They do an awesome use of the POV where they strap the camera to their body and it's just in front of them, and you just get everything around them moving. But it really adds to a drunk like hungover feeling.
Oh yeah.
And he gets to the point where he's just like, he gets up and he's just like, I need to sit down.
Yeah, right after he gets up.
You know, you're just like, and then, you know, everyone wakes up. Alan trips, you know, he has no pants on.
Yeah.
He starts taking a piss in the bathroom, and
he sees a tiger.
A tiger starts roaring. So it's
a
just,
jungle cat, I believe is what he
questions start and he's peeing, and he just does a 180 body turn or
while still peeing,
completely, and looking like, huh. Yeah. Interesting. He goes back and then it roars again, and he fucking runs.
Fantastic.
But like the terrible shit keeps building. You know, they wake up like, Jesus, goddamn, look at this place. Like, what do we do? What can we remember?
And Ed Helms is immediately like, they have my credit card number, right? Like, I mean, he's gone right back to, and it's fun to see as the movie progresses how freeing his drunken night was and the repercussions, but he comes right back to being the same person he was before, of like, how do I explain my missing tooth, right? Like, and how do I explain like the credit card debt, and how do I explain all these things? And what's his line? He says, I look like a nerdy hillbilly.
Yeah. And then, you know, they're all worried. They're trying to find Doug, and they call his phone. Alan answers it. They start hearing a baby cry. And so it gets even worse now. And you know, just it starts compounding on itself. And so they have to start putting the mysteries back together.
Alan's line? The baby in the closet, and he's like, whose is it? And he's like, check its collar or something. Like,
look on its collar. What's its name tags?
Yeah. And I think that it's like, I think something that rewatching this scene this time, I noticed is, you know, at this time, Todd Phillips as a director was just a comedic director. Like, you know,
he did Road Trip, I think.
Yeah,
right?
and what I think I was paying attention to this time is, like knowing what he did with something like Joker, I'm like, he actually is a great director, even in something that's comedic like this. Like, the color palette's really interesting. All those little details, the way that the camera's dollying across and showing us all these different things, and how it's choosing to let one thing go and then another thing.
His movies always look great.
Right. And like, you think of like another great comedic director, like somebody like the Farley brothers. It's like, they were always great at coming up with ridiculous stories, but their movies looked flat because that wasn't what they were known for, right?
Yeah.
And this is like rich and full and very interesting looking, even for it being a drunken debauchery comedy.
For sure. And, you know, more than anything, I think this scene, what we learned from is that it's just one of the great setup scenes that I can think of in recent history, right? Like, it gives you all the exposition but tells you nothing, right?
Right.
It's one of those things. And like, that's not an easy thing to do. And the way that they find things out throughout the movie is obviously hilarious and fun, and they figure everything out. They obviously went on to make more,
right?
Because this was such a massive hit.
Well, and it's one of those things where I remember even like when we were talking about doing this, and you were like, oh, it's the next morning. And I was like, right. And I was like, is that where Ed Helms has the Mike Tyson tattoo? And you're like, no, that's the second movie. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because they were still, even in the second one, able to up the ante by doing a couple of things that you would think.
And it's in Thailand in that one, right?
Yeah, and it's like, I still was like, that's pretty damn funny to be able to up the ante enough that it still worked.
Yeah. I don't know if that worked. They just stole the same jokes throughout a lot of comedy sequel, especially ones that weren't expected to have sequels. Just lean on the old jokes.
Yeah, but the Mike Tyson tattoo is pretty good.
Fuck yeah!
If you're gonna make it worse than a missing tooth, that's the gag.
Pretty good.
That's how you do it. Yeah, I do agree that it is a classic setup and then trying to backtrack and find out what happened. I think that the addition of a baby, a tiger,
missing friend,
and his mattress, like all those
missing
things.
Tooth.
Yeah, like that definitely makes it into. It's not the worst case scenario. I think the worst case scenario version of this would be something like Very Bad Things, which is also
that's a great movie.
It's also a bachelor party.
Yes, that's definitely the
gone wrong. Worst case scenario.
Still has some funny moments, but fucked up.
Yeah,
sure.
but I think that this is like, it's not harmless. They have a baby. like that's bad news, but it is harmless in the sense of like, can we make this right?
Yeah.
Like, no one's dead, you know?
Except Phil is like, well, just let's not worry about the baby. He's like, we're not going to leave a fucking baby here, man. Like,
That
what
is,
do you think?
I will say that was upon rewatch. That was the one thing that was seemed a little dark to me is how unflappable Bradley Cooper's character
Come on,
is.
man, we're in Vegas. Let's just get out of
he's
here.
like, "Why are you guys freaking out?" It's like, dude, look around. Like, this is pretty bad.
Yeah, there's a tiger in the bathroom.
Yeah.
We're not going to leave a baby here.
Yeah, a jungle cat. No, it's a fantastic scene. It was really fun to go back and revisit it.
And then after this, we get the famous Alan with the baby, in the elevator with the sunglasses on.
Names it Carlos just on a whim because the lady asks.
Hilarious movie. Love this movie. Always a riot.
I think I do think that it's one of those sort of screenwriting 101 things that when you read it the first time and you're like, okay, so where's this headed? You have these 4 sort of friends. Some of them are better friends than others. And like Ellen's already seems like maybe a loose cannon. But then you're like, no, all bets are off. Like,
no, I think that's
bad things happen.
I think that's a good point. And why I think we wanted to talk about it is because you do have to have scenes like this. And this one is done pretty much to the T of... Oh, I want to keep watching, right?
Yep.
And that's the main goal of a movie, right? Is like you want to be intrigued, you want to be engaged, you want to know what's going to happen.
How did these things happen?
How did it? Yeah. And now you want answers.
Yep.
And that's the right of the movie. And they did a great sub here.
Yep.
So I thought it was worthy to talk about. But
Totally
definitely screenwriting 101. So awesome. Thank you very much. Please like and subscribe. We are on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram as our most popular platforms. So join us on the journey. Next week, we're going to begin our Cyberpunk Festival with Dark City from 1998.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Exciting.
Thanks very much.
Bye, you guys.